Hello, my friends. I just came in from the garden. I had a lot of little starts in my greenhouse that I needed to put in the ground today, and it's super, super hot. So, whew, trying to cool down a little bit. But I did want to share with you something that I've talked about before that I really find it's kind of honing in on something inside of us and become aware of what it is that arises inside to meet an experience outside of you, seems outside of you. So something happens in the world, and we have a reaction to it. That reaction is something that arises in us to react, to engage, to meet, to argue with, to whatever, have an opinion about, have a strong reaction about. That is something that happens inside of us. And I think it is so important to be aware of that, because until we are aware of that, the reaction runs your life. And of course, it comes back again for me when I was very involved with Joel Goldsmith's teachings, that one of the things I will always remember is that if you want to create change or heal a situation, you cannot react to it. So I've shared before, for many years, I was just very focused on what if I reacted or not. And then I would work with that. In the earlier days, I didn't know how to work with this because this was not something that Joel would teach or talk about. So for the most part, it might just have been a suppression of it, or ignoring it or something. And that's just how it was in the earlier days. But then when I learned more about, the body and embodiment, and became a Hakomi therapist or practitioner, that was very, very much, and still is, it's all focusing on the inner terrain, on our inner experience. And when I learned to be with that reaction in a new way, then I could help that reaction soften and basically dissolve without trying to get rid of it. Because that's another thing we do, right? We have something arising in us to meet a situation, and it can also just to meet our inner beliefs, our core beliefs, right? When something arises, let's say it's pain, then there is something else arises that says, you're bad, you shouldn't feel that, you should be over that, yada, yada, yada. So this is all arising inside of us. It's like this whole world that's happening inside of us that we just take it for granted. We don't question it. We don't explore it or go inside to investigate it. Well, many people are these days, and that's a really good thing. But so when something happens out there, you can just use the news because it brings up a reaction for everybody, almost everybody. And then you just, use that as a practice ground. Listen to one of the news stations, whether it's, one of the older ones or newer ones or an alternative ones. I don't care what it is. We are looking for a reaction in you. Or it could be somebody has a Facebook post about something, about what's going on in the world, and you just notice what arises in you. You don't need to write a whole essay, let's say in a Facebook comment, like, yeah, I agree with you, or yada, yada, yada. No, 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 no. You just notice what happens and you just allow it to be there. You don't need to do anything with it other than just noticing it and just be present with it. And when I say it this way, I'm well aware that it's not that easy. because we're so used to feel the reaction without being present with it. It's almost like it's just doing its thing, and then out we are, out we are there back in the race with the matrix. So we want to change that. And I really see, I mean, I can see it in myself. I've been doing this for so long that these reactions, they're nothing. They're nothing. Does that mean I won't have a reaction here and there? Of course I do, but I do not deny it. I don't try and get rid of it. I just let it be there and move through me by just being fully present with it. This is the deep work that liberates us at that level. I know there's many who are trying to do it with the mind. I think you can get ahead, you can definitely do some really good work by working with the mind. But we cannot ignore that reaction that is an emotional reaction that needs to be met at its own level. You cannot meet an emotion with the mind because they're two different languages. They do not merge. It's like oil and water in a way. So you cannot do, you can maybe create a space around it with your mind and say, oh, hello, you can be here too. Let me see how I can just support you in that. So the mind can be very helpful when you know how to do it. And I think we all do need to use our minds, to change things around and not let the mind run our lives, but that we start taking charge of it again instead of doing that reaction. We might have we make a choice, and they say, no, I want to practice something else now. So you can communicate with your mind to help it come on your side. And I think that's a very important thing. That is part of, becoming more loving to yourself. If we don't deal with the mind that is beating you up, and that's some serious work we all need to do. Learn to become more loving to ourselves, learn to not let the mind, tell you what's wrong with you or that you're a loser or, you should be further along, whatever the mind tells you. It's totally boring once you see through it. It's like, nah, be gone, be gone. So becoming aware, and I really would suggest that you take I don't know, a news channel or a Facebook post or a YouTube channel, whatever, where something is being talked about that is going to trigger you. That's perfect because then you can really be present with the trigger without letting the trigger push you out into the world and feed the world and feed the very thing you don't want. You feed it when you react to it. And in that way, that is how we do create the world that we experience. It's because whatever suggestions come, whether it's in the mind, whether it's in the news, whether it's, in your neighborhood, whatever arises, we have the power to dismantle it in a way by not engaging in it anymore. Doesn't mean we just sit and, with a six pack and watch TV all day. That's not what I'm talking about. It's really about walking through the earth in your life as this presence that chooses to stay here, that chooses, right? So it's a mind thing. It's like, no, I'm choosing to do that. I'm choosing to practice staying present in my heart, in my beingness, in my divinity. That's a choice we make. And that is where the mind can be super helpful. And then we practice that. So every time you feel something arises in you, like, oh my God, look what they're doing, you go, oh, wow, wow, there's a strong reaction here. Let me see if I can be present with it. Maybe you can't. That's okay. You practice, you can only get better by practicing it. So that's really an invitation I want to offer all of us. And I promise you that life gets so much easier. You will feel so much more free and liberated when you're not the slave to these reactions that arise in you. They're not you. They're not you. It's another suggestion coming in. And the more we can catch our own reaction to whatever it is, then we take back our divine power and we take back our sovereignty. And then you walk through the earth. You will meet people from a place of peace, from a place of presence, and they may not like it. Many people want you to engage with them, and they think you're weird if you don't. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But then the reaction to that, like, oh my God, you be with that. You're like, oh, here's a reaction that I think I need to be more like them, that I need to react more. You be with that. So you see, there's plenty of layers that you can practice it on. But in the beginning, you don't see most of the layers because they're very hidden, right? They're unconscious. So that's why I'm inviting you to see if you can start making your unconscious reactions conscious. And now you have a choice. And that's really what it comes down to right now, that we do have a choice to where we want to put our energy. We can keep feeding the matrix and keep it alive and fighting it and not liking it. But all that stuff is just making it grow and continue what it's doing. Or we can choose to say, you know, I'm pulling back my energy from the matrix by not reacting, by not being attached, by not wanting to fight it, all that stuff. And then that's the work, you know, that's the work. And it doesn't happen overnight. But hey, you got to start somewhere, right? So feel free to reach out if you need help with that. We all do, especially in the beginning, but also later in life or later on the journey. And that's perfectly normal. I think it's actually very healthy to do that. You know, if you suppress, like, oh, I need help, like, no, I have to do it on my own, right? That's part of that same matrix stuff that keeps you stuck in there. So please give it a try. Please comment, please like, share. Let me know how this lands for you. Do you need help with that? Reach out, set up a self-discovery session with me, and we can see how, if I'm the right support for you, and if that's what you need at this time of your journey. All right, my friends, have a blessed day.